In October 1944, when the first kamikaze dove toward the deck of the USS St. Lo, American sailors discovered a terrifying truth. Their traditional anti-aircraft defenses were completely inadequate against pilots willing to die. The 50-caliber machine guns that had served well against conventional bombers simply couldn't bring down suicide aircraft before they reached their targets. The need for a more effective solution became urgent. Enter the Bofors 40mm anti-aircraft gun. Developed in the 1930s by the Swedish company AB Bofors, this weapon was renowned for its reliability, rapid rate of fire, and devastating precision. Its 40mm caliber struck a perfect balance between firepower and rate of fire, making it ideal for targeting fast-moving aircraft. The US Navy quickly recognized its potential and began mass-producing it under license. The transformation wasn't immediate. In early 1943, American ships still relied heavily on the problematic 1-inch Chicago piano, a quad-mounted nightmare that jammed so frequently that crew members were stationed underneath with hammers and wrenches, lying on their backs to clear malfunctions mid-battle. The contrast couldn't have been starker when the first Bofors guns arrived aboard USS Enterprise in March 1943. Lieutenant Commander James Morrison, the ship's gunnery officer, later wrote in his diary, "The difference was like comparing a Model T Ford to a Cadillac." The Bofors fired continuously without jamming, maintained accuracy at ranges we'd never achieved before, and most importantly, it actually brought down enemy aircraft. The gun's 90 rounds per minute rate of fire, combined with its 2.87-pound high-explosive shells, created a wall of steel that Japanese pilots had never encountered. The technical specifications told the story of Swedish engineering excellence. With a muzzle velocity of 2,170 feet per second and an effective range of 11,500 feet, the Bofors could engage targets at distances that gave gunners precious extra seconds to track and destroy incoming threats. Each shell contained enough explosive power to cripple an aircraft with a single hit, while the gun's hydraulic loading system ensured continuous fire as long as ammunition was available. Japanese pilots first encountered the Bofors in significant numbers during the Marshall Islands campaign in early 1944. Flight Petty Officer Saburo Sakai, one of Japan's most experienced aces, described the shock in his memoir. "We expected the usual scattered machine gun fire that we could weave through. Instead, we flew into a curtain of explosions that seemed to anticipate our every move. The shells burst with mathematical precision, creating kill zones we couldn't escape." The psychological impact was immediate and devastating. Where Japanese pilots had previously pressed attacks with confidence, knowing they could likely survive the approach to their targets, they now faced a gauntlet of precisely timed explosions. The Bofors didn't just shoot at aircraft. It created three-dimensional kill zones through which no pilot could safely fly. Captain Mitsuo Fuchida, who had led the Pearl Harbor attack, witnessed the Bofors' effectiveness firsthand during the Philippine Sea operations. "Our pilots returned with stories that seemed impossible," he later testified. They spoke of American ships surrounded by walls of fire so dense that approaching them was like flying into a thunderstorm made of steel. Many of our most experienced pilots simply refused to believe such defenses were possible. The numbers revealed the brutal mathematics of modern warfare. In the 6 months before widespread Bofors deployment, Japanese aircraft achieved a 23% hit rate against American naval targets. After the guns became standard equipment, that rate plummeted to just 4%. Each Bofors mount required only a crew of 8 men, yet could engage multiple targets simultaneously with devastating effect. Admiral Chester Nimitz recognized the strategic implications immediately. In a classified report to the Joint Chiefs of Staff, he wrote, "The Bofors 40mm has fundamentally altered the tactical balance in the Pacific. Japanese air attacks, once our greatest concern, have become manageable threats. We can now operate carrier task forces with confidence in heavily contested waters." The production numbers told their own story of American industrial might. By mid-1944, American factories were producing 1,500 Bofors guns per month, along with 2.5 million rounds of ammunition. The Chrysler Corporation alone manufactured over 60,000 barrels, while Ford Motor Company produced the complex fire control systems that made the guns so deadly accurate. As kamikaze attacks intensified in late 1944, the Bofors proved to be the perfect counter to Japan's most desperate tactic. The gun's rapid traverse rate of 25 degrees per second allowed it to track the erratic flight paths of suicide pilots, while its proximity-fused shells created kill zones that didn't require direct hits to be effective. Ensign Robert Chen, serving aboard USS Intrepid during the Leyte Gulf operations, witnessed the gun's effectiveness against kamikazes. A Zero came screaming down at us from 8,000 feet. Our Bofors opened up at 6,000 feet and tracked him all the way down. The pilot tried every evasive maneuver in the book, but the shells followed him like they were guided by radar. He disintegrated 200 feet above our deck. The Japanese military leadership watched their most elite pilots being systematically destroyed by what they initially dismissed as just another American gun. Admiral Takijiro Onishi, architect of the kamikaze strategy, confided to his staff, "We trained our pilots to die gloriously for the Emperor. The Americans trained their guns to kill efficiently for victory. Efficiency defeats glory every time." The technological superiority extended beyond mere firepower. The Bofors incorporated advanced metallurgy that allowed sustained firing without barrel warping, precision manufacturing that ensured consistent accuracy, and ergonomic design that reduced crew fatigue during extended engagements. Swedish engineers had created a weapon system that was simultaneously simple to operate and devastatingly effective. Master Chief Gunner's mate, William "Bull" Patterson, who served on 6 different ships during the Pacific Campaign, observed, "You could train a green recruit to operate a Bofors effectively in 2 weeks. The gun did most of the thinking for you. Point it at the target, pull the trigger, and watch the enemy disappear. It was almost unfair. Almost." The contrast with Japanese anti-aircraft capabilities was stark. While American ships bristled with dozens of Bofors mounts, Japanese vessels relied primarily on 25mm guns with half the range and a quarter of the hitting power. Japanese naval architect Kikuo Fujimoto later admitted, "We were fighting a 1940s war with 1930s weapons, while the Americans brought 1950s technology to the battlefield." By early 1945, the psychological impact on Japanese aviators had become as devastating as the physical destruction. Flight training schools reported increasing numbers of pilot candidates who specifically requested assignment to anything other than anti-shipping missions. The mere sight of American task forces on the horizon, bristling with Bofors mounts, was enough to break the morale of even veteran pilots. Lieutenant Yasuo Kuwahara, who survived 3 encounters with Bofors-equipped American ships, wrote, "Flying against those guns was like charging into a mechanical hurricane. Every shell seemed aimed personally at you, every explosion calculated to your exact position. We weren't fighting human gunners anymore. We were fighting machines that never missed, never tired, and never showed mercy." The strategic implications rippled throughout the Japanese war effort. With air attacks becoming increasingly futile, Japan was forced to abandon offensive operations and retreat to purely defensive positions. The Bofors had effectively neutralized Japan's primary tactical advantage, the skill and dedication of its pilots. The final months of the Pacific War demonstrated the complete transformation of naval warfare. During the Okinawa campaign, American ships equipped with Bofors guns achieved a 96% survival rate against kamikaze attacks, compared to less than 60% for ships with older anti-aircraft systems. The numbers spoke for themselves. Technology had triumphed over human courage. Captain Tamichi Hara, one of Japan's most experienced naval commanders, witnessed the final kamikaze attacks of the war. His assessment was brutally honest. "Our pilots flew with the spirit of samurai, but they died like insects against a spider's web. The Americans had created a killing machine so perfect that human bravery became irrelevant. We were not defeated by better soldiers. We were defeated by better engineers." Admiral Matome Ugaki, in his final diary entry before his own kamikaze mission, wrote, "The enemy's guns have made our sacred wind meaningless. Where once our pilots struck like divine lightning, now they fall like autumn leaves. The age of the warrior has ended, and the age of the machine has begun." In the war's aftermath, Japanese military analysts conducted extensive studies of their defeat. The conclusions were unanimous and devastating. The Bofors 40mm had single-handedly neutralized Japan's most effective weapon, the willingness of its pilots to die for victory. Technology, when applied with ruthless efficiency, had proven more powerful than the human spirit. General Torishiro Kawabe, former chief of the Japanese Army Air Force, summarized the transformation in his post-war testimony. "We believed that superior spirit could overcome superior technology. The Bofors gun taught us that this was a fatal delusion. In modern warfare, the side with better machines wins, regardless of the courage of individual soldiers." And the legacy of the Bofors 40mm extended far beyond World War II. Its success established the template for all future anti-aircraft systems: rapid fire, high accuracy, and devastating effectiveness against human-piloted aircraft. The age of the heroic pilot charging through defensive fire had ended forever. Today, as we examine the wreckage of Japanese aircraft scattered across Pacific battlefields, we see more than the debris of war. We see the moment when human courage met mechanical precision and lost. The Bofors 40mm didn't just win battles, it redefined the very nature of warfare itself. The devastating precision of the Bofors 40mm had done more than protect American ships. It had fundamentally redefined modern warfare, establishing a precedent that would echo through all future conflicts. It was a brutal lesson in the power of technology, applied with lethal accuracy. When perfect machines confront human courage, the machines always win.